Muy buenos días.
Good morning. I'm Pablo. I work for GeneXus in the support area for the Brazilian market in particular. And in my presentation, I will share with you the topics we've been working on for the last few weeks. This is a connector for the Mercado Libre API. Nicolas talked about it in his presentation, and Gustavo touched upon it this morning. And this shows what we are going through these days. Our systems are conceived as a set of interconnected components. Components that are present on different development platforms, production platforms, in different devices. We are not only talking about telephones, computers, tablets. We have watches, TV sets, cars, etc. And that reality we face today, all those components are simply software. So many of these components need to open up their platforms and integrate more easily. That is why, over recent years, the concept of API is becoming more popular. Though it's new, it was present since we started with structured programming. Early on, it was used to solve technical problems, how two components could connect. But today, API presents new business opportunities. Platforms for social means, like Twitter, Google, Netflix, have opened up their platforms for others to add value, to develop things that complement those platforms. And one of such cases in e-commerce is what's happening with Mercado Libre. Mercado Libre, as Karen told us yesterday, is a website. I think here everybody knows it in Latin America because it's a leading e-commerce site. It's a site where you sell and buy products. Products that could be sold by anybody, any product you have at home or in the office, or it could be a company that provides products. It could be brand new products or second-hand products. This is a very large community. It is present in 13 countries. Karen talked about 140 million users, and in 2014 they talked about 7 million sellers. So it's a very large platform. In the year 2012, Mercado Libre decided to open up its platform for the developers community in what they call the MIAPI. And this is the logo, which is a puzzle, and opening up this puzzle invites new members to this community. The idea behind it is that the community may do new developments on the basis of that platform. So they use the whole ecosystem that is installed for e-commerce. This includes not only the site, but also other modules like Mercado Pago for prepayment, Mercado Envío for deliveries and logistics, and they have also incorporated official shops or stores so that those companies that do not have e-commerce sites may have it as part of the Mercado Libre platform. What is the Mercado Libre API? It's a combination of REST resources. Technically speaking, it's a REST resource. If you go to the developer's site, you will find about 100 REST API resources. You can publish an item. From my application, through the API, I can publish without going to Mercado Libre's site. And I can put all the properties and features about my item. Or I could do consultations in a very programmatic way. Whatever you can do through a website or the smart device can be done today through the API. So this is a series of REST full service protocol, and they give you back a message that is in JSON format, and the structure of the format of the message can be simple or complex depending on the service we invoke. Some services are public. If you want a consultation and you want to bring so many products to your push cart, you can do that. Other services are private, and they require you to be a user of Mercado Libre if you have a question or you want to buy something. This is a previous mechanism for authentication. And then they use the OAuth 2.0 mechanism. If you've worked with GeneXus to develop applications for smart devices, these are concepts that we use internally to connect these two components, the device and the backend. With a smart device application in GeneXus, when you call a procedure for an event, you're calling a REST service based on JSON format. If it is authenticated, it's using certain mechanisms, and these concepts are present in the applications developed with GeneXus. In the last point, you know what you can do through API. You can do anything except buy. The only restriction today is buy. The rest you can do. So much so that Mercado Libre used to be a closed platform. Then they released this API in 2012, and they decided to open up. And they implemented their own website and smart device application using the API. They are doing the dog fooding process, eating their own dog food to show that the API works. That the same one they used is going to be available for developers, so it has good responding time and it's kept updated. When you open the API, you have an opportunity. Developers can do other applications that integrate with Mercado Libre for web and smart devices. And this is where we have an opportunity at the GeneXus community to develop something. We can do multi-platform developments very easily, and we can now integrate to Mercado Libre. So we created the GeneXus Meli SDK. What is it? Basically, it's a way in which you can more easily integrate to the Mercado Libre APIs. To commit to our mission of developing applications in the easiest possible way, as you can use simple multi-platform GeneXus devices, you can use this other platform to integrate to Mercado Libre very easily. This is an GX XPZ that has a module with a certain amount of procedures and structures of GeneXus that implement the invocations to API of Mercado Libre. And the structure that this returns is created through objects SDT. So you don't have to create that structure, which may be very complex in some cases. You can invoke a resource from this API, and it's as easy as calling a GeneXus procedure. I'll show you something on how it works. XPZ that I talked about has a series of modules. It's divided into modules to differentiate the different components. One module is for categories. You bring information from Mercado Libre sites. You want to know about categories of each site. It depends on countries. There are subcategories depending on the categories and so on. It's a tree of categories. There's a module for items, to publish an item, to download it, to update it, to obtain information about the item. If it's a house, you can talk about the location, put a picture. If it's a car, all the features of the car, all through procedures. And the same if you have to deal with questions and answers. You ask a question about an item and you can obtain questions from other users. It responds automatically. And the scenarios where we can use this are varied. This depends on your own creativity. But we can separate two cases. One is a group of sellers, the other is a group of buyers. In the case of buyers, Karen said yesterday something that was very interesting. She said, Today, over 30% of publications in Mercado Libre are done through API. Though this is still a very low figure, there are many opportunities that over 30% through API have helped increase sales, so it works. The other thing is the scenario of official shops or stores where they see that there are many opportunities, because official stores today, if they want to publish in Mercado Libre, they have to go to the site and put all the products manually. In some cases, that's very cumbersome. If we have a system or the clients have catalogs, we could use through a program all the products that they want to publish in Mercado Libre, and that's going to be much easier. On the other hand, the buyers can do many things. Apart from all these functions, to operate on Mercado Libre's site, to publish a product or make questions, we have a database with plenty of information. You can obtain data or provide statistics to users or provide information that helps them buy, or to prepare applications for certain market niches. Today, the smart device application for Mercado Libre is generic. It has all the categories and it starts screening and does searches. But we could have this application, this made by Gaston Milano. He says, I just want to see cars. In another case, you may have an application that wants to see cars of a given period or a given product, but something very punctual, not generic. So we could do this because we have the API that provides that information, and you can screen it and do applications to solve certain market niches. With GeneXus, this is very easy to do. I'll show you two examples using API with GeneXus through SDK. First, I'll show you how the search mechanism or procedure works. This does not require authentication, and the second scenario is to list an item. In this case, we need authentication mechanism. To show the search, they told me that with API, you could do anything except buy. So I said, how easy would it be to do the main screen with GeneXus? This is what we see when we log in. This screen has a screen here. It's filters, the make of the car, the model. We get the results here in this grid in the middle. And as we choose, for example, the make, the model, depending the category, there is another area where the filters I selected are recorded. So through the API, I prepared my own version of Mercado Libre. Here I have a GeneXus web panel where I will select which site I'm going to use. These are all the sites available. How do we do that? I go to the start event and I go to get sites. The structure is predefined. This is a collection with all the sites of Mercado Libre. And then I load the grid with the result of SDT, and I add an options or a link for each line to call the second screen. So if I go to Brazil here, the second screen will show me a combo with all the categories available. So I call for a procedure, and the website identification will remind me of all the categories, in this case in Portuguese, and they are specific of Brazil. If I go to the Uruguay website, we'll see that the categories respond to Uruguay and they are in Spanish. So here I choose one of the categories, real estate. I'm looking for a house. And this is the screen that deploys. I have a grid with the search results on the left. I have a grid with the filters that are available for that category. the amount of houses available, and another grid here with the filters that I have already selected. How do we do this with GeneXus? We simply go here. Event is click, categories combo. I take that category and I just call the sub-search, which says get site search. I give the category, the site, and the filters that I have selected. What are the filters? It's all the elements that I mark on the left grid. That's the only procedure that I call from GeneXus to prepare this screen. Then I do 3 grids in my layout, and for each grid I associate the result of this get site search. It's a structure that is defined in GeneXus, and this is the one that has a complex structure. Within this collection, I have several collections. One is results, for example, name, picture, price, register number. The other is a sub-collection, which is the filters available for that selection, and the other is the filters that I have selected. So I just put 3 grids, and to each grid I associate a collection that comes from this overall collection. So at the level of GeneXus programming, these are a few lines. Then I add other types of information like show the total, go get site search SDT that shows the total. And here at the level of the grid, I have a link to call permalink, which is one of the properties that returns SST, and this is the item in Mercado Libre. If I press this link, it will bring me the screen of Mercado Libre. I could create my own screen without going to the site. As you see, as I filter, I can select houses. If I click there, it calls a search, and it comes back and updates the 3 grids with the results from that SDT. Now, what's the point of doing this? This is for Mercado Libre to do. But here, we can take advantage of all this data. When I was looking for a house, I wanted to see the location of the house instead of a list of houses. It's very typical. You go into Mercado Libre, you look at the prices, the pictures, but we want to know where they are located. In Mercado Libre, when we go to a link in a house, we see a map of its location. But I want to take advantage of this filter that I have here to already know in a map where these 12,000 houses are located. And I could select one and see the link, the price, and so on. That's very easy in GeneXus. I just put a map control, and the collection that brought the result was assigned to the map. Because one of the data in the collection when I look for houses is a geographic location. And this is what the map needs to show the red bubble. So I did nothing in addition. So now I know, I look at the map and I start screening, and I want to look in Maldonado, so I choose Maldonado. There are 3,462 houses available. And if once I am in Maldonado, I say, well, Piriápolis is the location. There are 878 houses, and I look at them. And I can choose this one. This is on sale. It's not on sale because it's only $1,000. Ah, that was for rent. I was buying it at $1,000 myself. Let me specify that I want to buy, not rent. So this would cost, okay, $200,000. That's a lot more expensive. So we have this different view which does not exist today in Mercado Libre. Another interesting thing, not as a buyer but as a seller, if I'm selling my house, I have a house in Piriápolis, I want to sell it, it meets all the requirements here, and once again I'll see what's the price of my house. So I go to Mercado Libre, I compare houses with the same features to see what they are asking for, and then I more or less decide if it's going to be cheaper or not. But I have a lot of information to choose from. So here we have a collection that brings us a list of houses plus prices. I could add prices, take the prices of the different houses, and show that as a graph and say, well, according to prices, how many houses are there in Maldonado, Piriápolis, with all these filters? And here I have a graph. I just added number of houses and prices. And once again, I did nothing in addition. I took the same collection and I'm presenting a different type of information for users. And this is very helpful in making better decisions. There are 74 houses that cost between $110,000 and $170,000. But I can say, well, my house is this big, 100 to 150 square meters. So I will compare similar houses, and then the graph updates. So I used all the filters of Mercado Libre to solve other scenarios, to see the location on the map, to look at prices, to look at sizes, and we can get far more information. You can get the questions about the houses, the qualification of the seller, and we can play with all those data to show better information for better decision making. This is one example of the search. As you see, all the screens are using the all the components that I showed. Now, I'll show you part of the structure of SDT that brings you to get site search. Here we have the results. It's not, the node is not expanded, but it is a collection with description, price, picture, link, with all information about that element. That's what appears on the grid. Here you have the filters with different values supported and quantities for each value and filters available. The second case is called list an item, when you publish something. Here you need to be authenticated and be a user of Mercado Libre. How do you do that with GeneXus? I am using codes, but these are data that we'll bring from other services. Basically, we get the characteristics of an item, all the properties. The SDT is already defined in GeneXus, and we need the title, the category, where I'm going to publish the item. If it's a house, it will go to real estate. If it's a car, it will go to vehicles. If it's an iPod, it's electronic equipment. But I know that Mercado Libre has an API, which is a GeneXus procedure, where I can consult the categories, and I'll get the codes for those categories. So I use configuration for the item, and depending on the category, I have attributes. If it's a house, the attributes will be number of rooms, square meters, location. If it's a car, color, make, model, doors, fuel. These are things that can be coded, and I can ask, for example, give me the properties under this characteristic. So I do the SDT with the item and its attributes, and to list it, I call this line, list an item. I give the item and the access token, which is a code for authentication. First of all, I need to log in, I get a token, and that is the token I will use, and then I will be published as user. If you have a customer that wants to list, it will be a user corresponding to that business, so that it will be published on his name. So we presented a solution to them 2 weeks ago. DealerNet, that's a customer. DealerNet is a company in Brazil. It's an ERP for car dealers. It's a leader in terms of this activity. They cover 97% of the Fiat brand, and they have several other agencies in Brazil. One of the customers has over 2,000 second-hand cars in a catalog of products, in the stock of cars. Even though the ERP system manages sales through car dealers, in some cases they had to integrate with other platforms to publish their cars. They did it with specific car sale platforms, but they wanted to publish it in other sites like Mercado Libre. So we presented a solution 2 weeks ago with XPZ, and 3 days afterwards they gave us a solution that they implemented to integrate this to their ERP. I'll show you how it works. What they did was open a screen pretending the GeneXus is the car dealer, and here they have a stock of cars, second-hand cars. In this case, as examples, we put 4 cars. One of the customers has 2,000 cars. But then we put all these specifications. Renault Duster, it's Flex 2013, so many kilometers. But now the user wants to publish this in Mercado Libre. If he wanted to do that, he had to send that information through a given service, and somebody else would do the publication. But now, the customer from their own shop can choose the first one, the Renault Duster. He's connecting to the ERP to get the information, and it tells him, these are the specifications of the car. But Mercado Libre requires other properties. The brand coincides, so we give the value. These are the values. For Mercado Libre, I'm calling a GeneXus procedure that says return the makes of vehicles for Brazil, which are not the same if I'm using Uruguay side or Argentina side or Colombia. Then the model. I'm telling them bring the models for Renault, and there was no automatic match between my model and what they have. It gives me an option, so I choose the Duster. Number of doors. My system did not have this system, but Mercado Libre finds it compulsory to mention the number of doors. 5 doors. Fuel. Well, this is different from Mercado Libre, and let's choose gasoline, alcohol flex. If I'm in Uruguay, flex does not appear. We only have diesel and gasoline. The year, yes, it was 2013, it corresponded, kilometers used, and the price. When I say confirm, at the time I call the listed item and it will be published in Mercado Libre. If I go to my user, I should have gone before to show you it was not there before. But now we'll check. It's going to be checked because my account is new and I have to pay before I publish. And this is the car that I just listed. And if I select another car, we'll do the same. Okay? And this is published. And this is the code, 1939. And if I go to the system that says published ads, this is the one, my identifying number. So I was able to do that directly from my platform, and this adds value to your customer. This is something that before they had to do by outsourcing, and somebody else would be sending the information to publish the ad in Mercado Libre. So here you see the opportunities with this new functionality. These opportunities are a benefit to your customers. Finally, I would like to tell you about SDK. It's an XPZ for Salto. It could be used in Evolution 3. It's a series of objects separated by modules. In that XPZ, apart from the procedures we use to invoke the functionalities of Mercado Libre's API, I have a few examples that will be published as well. We have the SDK Developer Explorer, according to category, to find out about subcategories. What are the attributes, the compulsory attributes? These are GeneXus work panels that are using the API. They show information so that you can consult that information and the codes are simpler. We will also have available a series of user interface resources, images, topics that follow the Mercado Libre theme, so that it can be integrated to your system if you use those resources. And we are beginning a beta test program, so send me an email to this address or to Gaston's address. We will check that information and then we will publish everything in our site. And if you're interested, that's my email address. I will be available. And if you have any questions now or later, if you need to know a little bit more about this, GeneXus then was able to develop multi-platform applications very easily, but also with the connectors for Mercado Libre, for SAP, for K2B, and we are simplifying integration development. Thank you.